Welcome to the show, Mindy.
Thank you.
So what is your sober date?
My which one? My the most recent sober date is December 28th, 2019, and that's from alcohol. And I'm
So you got
also clean off of medication, and I'm also clean off of marijuana. So I don't do any mind altering medications, not even sleeping pills.
oh, okay. So you really cut out stuff.
I had to. Yeah, I was abusing over the counter sleep aids. Uh, that's a really cool story too. But yeah, I had to stop everything.
We'll get to that. What was going on December 27th of 2019 that you decided you want to quit drinking?
Um, well, I don't know if it was that exact night, but I was being served with a PFA for the second time because when I get drunk, I get violent. And I wasn't being served on that day, but it was like a temporary, and my boyfriend at the time decided not to go through with it. And so I went back to my home, our home, and as I was in that house, it was so crazy. This like familiarity of being there was like slowly coming down over it like started in my head. It was like slowly seeping down. And it was like the familiarness of that place being mine and ours. And I heard in my head, whatever you can get from here to that front door, get it and get out of here. It was like God was speaking to me, and he was like, get whatever you can from this counter to that front door and get out of this house. And I did. And I didn't go back. And that's how I got sober, because he drank too. But his drinking was not as scary as mine. So
Hmm.
it looked a lot better. And that was the only way I was going to get sober, and I knew it. But it was weird that I had to run away from feeling that feeling of like, this is my comfort zone, this is my home. It was a beautiful home too that I walked away from. I mean, actually, I walked away from everything. I walked away from this idea I had of this wonderful life with a man and a home and my kids and staying home mom. Like I gave that all up for sobriety because I knew I had to.
Yeah. That makes sense. Where did you grow up?
Texas. I grew up in Texas.
You're second person today that I've interviewed that's from Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was from Houston and then Dallas for a little bit.
Okay.
And so and I had a guy on earlier this month from Austin. So I'm just hitting all the places in Texas lately. Um,
Yeah,
have
I
you?
grew up in Fort Worth.
Okay, Fort Worth. Did you move around at all, or you stayed in one place
Yeah.
for?
No, we moved around a lot. My dad worked for General Motors, and every time a plant closed or they were doing bad, they transferred us to another state. So I lived all over, like Michigan and Tennessee, and then that's how I became affiliated with Pennsylvania, because at some point I lived here and made some friends.
Are you in Pennsylvania now?
Yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania now. That's where I live.
Okay, so am I.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm over in Bloomsburg. Kind of like an hour southwest of Scranton,
Okay.
something like that. We're known for our town fair and the Bloomsburg University.
I
It
have
was
heard of Bloomsburg and I have heard of Scranton.
yeah.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania's a huge state, so I'm
Yeah.
originally from South Jersey, right outside of Philly.
Okay.
So that's where I'm originally from. So you moved around a lot. Did you have any brothers and sisters, or are you an only child?
No, one brother, one sister I grew up with.
Oldest,
But
youngest, middle?
I'm in the middle. I have an older brother and a younger sister, and we all just sort of we all just spread out. When my brother joined the military, and then shortly after he joined the military, I just moved out. When I was 17, I couldn't live with my mother. I mean, and now today I understand it. She's an addict, but at the time I didn't understand it. She was so crazy. I couldn't live with her. She made my life very difficult for seemingly no reason. So when I was 17, I left home. and I never looked back. And we were living in Texas at the time. And a friend of mine, I had an opportunity. A friend of mine was like, well, I'm a manager at this security uh, company. So if you come out here, I can get you a job. And I was like, well, I'm in Texas. So if you can come get me, I can come out and get a job. I'll come to work for you. And so he did. He drove out, him and a couple other my friends. They drove out and picked me up. And I got to Pennsylvania, and I've been here. Well, yeah, I got to Pennsylvania and I've been here ever since.
That's awesome. What
It
did
was awesome.
what did you discover first, drugs or alcohol?
Food, but then drugs. My first my first addiction was food, which led me to the addiction of Adderall, which was like the best thing that ever happened to me at the time because it took away my appetite. And then that addiction led me to everything else. And somehow along the way, I just was addicted to alcohol. It was just one of those things. Like when I started drinking, I wouldn't be able to stop. And it wasn't horrible at first. It really wasn't. It was fine. It just gradually got worse and worse and worse. And mixed with the Adderall addiction, it just took it to like a complete insane level. So I was like bipolar. I was basically like a bipolar person, but it was induced by the drugs and alcohol. I wasn't actually bipolar. I met truly bipolar people who had the same symptoms as me, but they didn't do drugs.
I did drugs and
So
I'm bipolar, so I get it.
yeah. Yeah, like I was so afraid to quit the drugs that I checked, but I was also afraid I was going to die. I checked myself into a mental hospital and I didn't tell them I was taking Adderall. I just didn't want to stop taking it. And I just told them my symptoms. So they diagnosed me with bipolar disorder. Oh my God, that fucked me for so long. That diagnosis really screwed me over in so many ways. And it was very, very, I just can't even get in. I can't explain to you how much that screwed me over, was being diagnosed with bipolar just because of the divorce that I went through and having a child with my ex-husband. I mean, he used that to every advantage he could to like hurt me in our divorce and our child custody. So all because of drugs.
When did you get into Adderall? How old were you?
I moved here. As soon as I moved here, I was 19, and a friend of mine that I went to high school with for the year that I lived in Pennsylvania back in the day, she showed up to the guard shack that I was working at, and she put two pills of Adderall in my hand, and she was like, "Just try this," and I did, and I felt fucking great. It was like great. Like I was like not depressed. I had energy. I felt amazing. And I just knew at that moment, I was like, I will do everything I can to keep this medication in my life. But it just completely, it destroys you. I read that biography of Britney Spears, and a lot of people like, they think like her dad, her whatever, her producers did all this shit. But I also read that she was taking a stimulant like similar to Adderall. And if you look at her today, like it's totally changed her. Like she's different. And I know that it's because of that stimulant that she's abusing. Like she
Yeah,
goes into it in detail, but it's just for some reason it's like it's not highlighted. But you can tell it's like totally screwed her mind up. Like she's a different person. And I'm convinced that that's why she's so screwed up. Like she
yeah.
continues to take that stimulant and it's easy, very easy to get. Very
Yeah.
easy to get. So
You just tell
it's
your doctor you're low on energy.
I can't even believe how easy it is to get. All I have to say is I can't focus, and they'll
Yeah,
put speed in my hand. Speed that is covered by my insurance and lasts way longer than like cocaine. It's not like
yeah,
cocaine's like a quick high, like Adderall's an all day high,
yep.
but it's it is literally it is the devil. It is like the drink from the devil.
Well, now there's shortages of it.
Thank
Um,
God.
it's hard to get now. My wife has MS, so she has a lot of trouble focusing with MS. She, can't walk without a walker, or she has an electronic chair. that she
Okay.
uses. So like she has progressive MS, so it's kind of bad.
Okay.
And they prescribed her Adderall first, but she couldn't fill the script anywhere, so they had to give her modafinil, which is like a cousin of Adderall. It just doesn't have all the same side effects and negative side effects that Adderall does. So we're kind of glad that she couldn't even get Adderall.
It's really shocking to me that people take this like medication. Like it is actually a stimulant. And if you look at when you look at the prescription, it says amphetamine salt. So it's exactly what you're taking, and my ex-husband, who when we got divorced, like he was like my original like supplier of it, because I think he still takes it today. He just didn't take it to like the degree that I took it. Like I would run out in like 7 days. I'd run out of a 30-day prescription. And you know, it took me 10 years to actually finally get off of it, but I literally thought I was going to die. I'm like, I'm going to die before I turn 30, so I have to get off this stuff. And I had to check myself into like an outpatient place. And I went back to the same hospital that I originally checked myself into when I didn't tell them I was abusing it. And I had to like convince these people that I was not bipolar, that I was addicted to Adderall, and that in itself was a challenge. I mean, I was like, I'm not bipolar. I have this problem. Like, I need you to understand. And they were like, it's okay. We understand how you feel. We get it. You're not and I'm like, I'm trying to tell you, I lied to you. I came in here and I lied to you. I lied to my doctor. I lied to everybody. And they were like, we know. We understand how you feel. And I could not convince these people. And I finally was like, oh my God, like they're not going to believe me. I broke down. Like I just started sobbing in front of this guy. And I don't know why, but that for some reason that clicked to him. And he was like, okay, she's like actually telling the truth. And he was like, do you feel better now? And I'm like, yes, now fucking get me off this drug. Like I can't stop. I'm going to kill myself with it. I literally can't stop taking it. And they kept me in an outpatient program for 6 days and like weaned me off of it. Like I would go there every day. They'd give me a little less. So it was like a landing out of it rather than like the abrupt like torture of stopping right away. So
They tapered you down.
they tapered me down so that I could walk out of it without physically like having horrible withdrawals. But that was such like a difficult time in my life. Oh my God. Just having to turn around and face. What's that?
Would you go through withdrawals when you ran out in the first 7 days?
Yes. Yeah, like severe withdrawals. Like I couldn't even get out of bed. Like physical lethargy to a degree that I've never felt in my life. Like you can't function with feeling that way. It's impossible to function. That when you can't even get up and do anything, like you're not functioning anymore.
Yeah.
So
no, that makes sense.
after a while I was taking it just to feel like remotely shitty rather than completely non-functional.
Did you ever find like a supplier of somewhere to buy them whenever you'd run out?
No, yeah, my doctor. Yeah, it was very easy. I just said this 30 pills weren't working. I need like more because they run out it like wears off during the day, and I got more. I just kind of blows my mind that it was that easy to get something that kills us.
It's just like alcohol. It's
Yeah,
very
exactly.
easy. There's ads for it on TV. There's billboards of it. You know what I mean? It's all over the place in magazines, and it's on Facebook. I talk about alcohol so often that my Facebook feed shows me alcohol promos and alcohol.
Wow.
And I have to go into the ad setting each time I see an alcoholic thing. I click on the 3 dots to change my setting to stop showing me this ad. And then eventually they die down. But you know how your phones listen to you and show you ads based on what you're talking about? Yeah, that's what happens. I talk about alcohol so much. Facebook's like, oh, he likes alcohol. We'll just show him alcohol stuff. And
Yeah.
it's so crazy because people don't realize you can literally die from alcohol withdrawals.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the how severe it was for me, like to get off, like the many times that I ran out of Adderall, like when it was time for me to get off alcohol, I just felt like it was terrible. But it still wasn't as bad as like coming off of Adderall. Like I feel like it was a better degree of shitty.
Now, were
So,
you taking sleeping pills while you were taking Adderall?
oh no, all these happened in like stages. Adderall, first it was Adderall that I had to get off, and then I continued to drink, and then I just had to stop drinking. I had to. I was getting me in so much trouble that I had to stop. And that was very, very difficult. It had to be this abrupt change in my life in order for me to quit. But God opened the door just like he always does. I just had to like walk through it. And when I say open the door, I mean he gave me a place to go. Like, I told you that feeling in the house where God was like, whatever you can get from this counter to that front door, get and get out of here. He was like, get out of here before that feeling like fully goes over you of this being your home. And I just did it. I didn't even think. I just acted. I grabbed my keys and I actually just left. I didn't get any of my shit. And I knew that I wasn't going to go back in that house. That if I wanted to actually not pick up another drink, that I wasn't going to go back into that house, and I had to let it all go. So my mother-in-law, she actually handed me the keys to this home, and she was like, why don't you just stay here until you get on your feet? And that is where I stayed for free. Like, and I remember, and like me and God, we talk to each other. We talk with each other. It's not just some like distant feeling that I get about God. He's right here with me, and I hear his voice, and we have actual like friendship and relationship. And I remember one of the things that he said to me, what I asked him, I was like, what are the conditions for me living in here and staying in here? Because I was afraid that I was going to lose that place. And he said, don't pick up a drink. So I didn't. And it was still extremely hard. Like I didn't pick up a drink, and I stayed there with my kids, and we were safe. And I was dry for like the first year and a half, 2 years, but then eventually I found an AA sponsor and I went through the steps, and I had an experience through the steps.
Yeah, me too.
It took that dryness away. I wasn't like wanting to drink, but knowing that I couldn't.
Yeah, no, that makes
So
sense. We
I
got
was still
roughly
smoking weed at the time too.
we got roughly around the same amount of time. I haven't had a drink since February 28th of 2020.
Okay, yeah.
So we're right around the
It's a
same.
nice amount of time.
But I've only had 5 months clean from benzos and clean from weed.
Weed
So
was easy for me to give up. I thought it
yeah,
was going to be hard, but it was extremely easy. Actually, my life got better immediately from quitting smoking weed.
I quit at the worst time for a pothead to quit. I quit 20 days before 420. So
Yeah.
I had to go through 420 clean. And my wife smokes with her MS. She doesn't drink. She's been sober the same amount of time. We both stopped drinking on the same day. And she doesn't smoke a lot. She doesn't smoke in front of me. You know what I mean? Like she has like a vape that she'll hit at night to help her fall asleep and to help with the body pain she gets. Because she gets called an MS hug, which basically feels like you're getting a bear hug in your entire body for sometimes hours. And it almost paralyzes you and you can't move. You can't sit up. It's horrible what MS does.
Wow.
So she literally needs it, and I don't blame her for using it still. Because she's using it as a medication. She's not escaping and not numbing herself with it. She doesn't smoke all day long.
Yeah.
So,
You know the difference.
yeah.
I did meet somebody once who she said she would take a hit like once a week or something. I'm like, yeah, you're definitely not.
Yeah.
That's not abusing it.
No, I was smoking it all day, every day. Like
Me too.
going through like an ounce a week.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, same. That's about right.
smoking bowls all day long, like not even rolling joints or blunts because they take up so much weed. So the only thing I would do is
Exactly.
I would just smoke bowls all day long.
Yeah.
And when my
Same.
it progressed when my dad died last year, I didn't process his death right, and I manipulated my psychiatrist to give me Ativan. And then when the Ativan stopped working, I manipulated him to give me Valium. And then I learned I could snort said Valium, so I started snorting Valium. And my wife's like,
Is
"You know,
that what people do? That's what they do. I know somebody who takes benzos, and I didn't know like what they do with it.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Xanax, you don't have to snort. There's no point to snort in a Xanax. It doesn't get you any higher to snort a Xanax. It does the same thing, so you might as well not waste your nostrils. But Valium, the effect hits you faster if you snort it.
I
So
see.
I
Okay.
would snort my Valium, and my wife's like, you know, you're not clean anymore, right? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you smoke all day and you take Valium and you're overprescribing yourself. You're running out of prescriptions. She's like, you're obviously abusing it. So you're not clean anymore.
Yeah,
And like
definitely not.
it dawned on me, like, oh my God, you're right. I'm definitely not. And so I quit both. And I had to quit gambling because I had a problem with gambling. I'm 30 days abstinent from that. So
Wow,
I go to Gamblers Anonymous on the weekends. I do
that's
NA.
awesome.
So
That's great. That's
the cool
really
thing
great.
about Gamblers Anonymous is I found a meeting on Zoom in Vegas because I figured if anyone knows how to quit gambling, it's people that are in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So I'm in a group with a ton of people from Vegas, and I've really learned a lot about the disease of gambling and a gambling addiction.
So many there's so many addictions out there. It's insane. You know,
I,
there's Media Addicts Anonymous.
is it really?
Yeah, it's awesome. Yes. Like I can go to those meetings. I am an addict of like every color. I am a sugar addict. Like right now, I've just begun into Gray Sheets Anonymous, which is like for food addiction, but not just food. Like you have to eat every day. So this is like for people who have like addiction to like sugar and starches and flours and grains, which is me. So now I'm starting a journey on that. And I'm not abstinent today. You know, I ate sugar today,
Yeah.
but I'm still in a better place than I was, years ago.
So you said
But
you
there's
did
been,
stuff in stages. So 29, you got clean from Adderall, right?
yep, 29, I got clean from Adderall, and it took me a little longer with the alcohol. After
How
the
old were you?
alcohol, uh, with alcohol, so I'm 41. It was 6 years ago that I got
Okay.
clean off alcohol. And it was probably like a year into sobriety that I stopped smoking weed. I don't even remember. I just know, nope, go, 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 go. I just know that I was living at, nope, go that way, inside. I was living in the house I told you about, and I was sitting in the back porch, and I would look at these trees in the background, and there was like, at night, they looked like silhouettes of things. And there was this one, I swear, it looked like a little girl, like in a dress, like a little, just imagine a little girl in a little dress, and it looked like a snake's mouth coming up, and it looked like she was walking out of the snake, but she wasn't out of the snake. She was walking out of the snake. And I remember God telling me, he was like, you have to, he was like, you know, this is going to lead you to a drink. That's what he told me. He's like, you're going to pick up a drink because of this pot. Because I didn't really think it was that bad. It's not like I got crazy. I didn't get violent on it. I could still function. And I was like, damn it, well, okay. Like if this is going to lead me to a drink, I said I'd do anything, and I meant it. I will do anything to stay sober. And so it took me about a week to like really get it all away from me and throw all the shit away and not go get more. And it was gone. And like 2 or 3 days after I quit, I was sitting on the back porch. I could still see the silhouette of the little girl. And the next day, I wake up, and the neighbors are like, they're like cutting all the dead trees down and everything. And I can hear them in the backyard cutting trees down. Well, that evening when I looked up, the snake was gone. And I freaking know that that was perfectly timed because I had quit smoking weed and the silhouette of this girl walking out of the snake's mouth was gone. Like that's what that was for. Like no longer was I in the snake's mouth. You know, that pot, the weed was like keeping me tied to this addiction that was going to kill me. And I just remember thinking like that was like totally like orchestrated perfectly. That timing was perfect. I don't even know how God does that. I think that's so amazing. Like it
Is
felt
that
like
when
it was my choice. Yeah. What's that?
you started using the sleeping pills?
And then I was still using the sleeping pills. And that was the last, I would say, mind altering thing that I quit. And he told me, he was like, he's like, if you keep doing this, you're gonna die. I was taking those, it was the over counter sleep aids. It's the same thing that's in Tylenol PM. If you take that stuff consistently, you will give yourself a heart attack eventually. And sometimes when I don't want to do what God says, I think I'm imagining these thoughts. Like that's just me, you know. I'm not gonna die of a heart attack. But my daughter one time said to me out of nowhere, she was like, she's like, your heart's gonna explode out of your chest and your soul's gonna leave your body. That's what she said. I was like, what? I'm like, I definitely fucking heard that. And then she like smiled and was like, huh? What? She
How
was like
old was
5, maybe 5 years old, 4 or 5, something like that. And she was very young. But that's exactly what she said. She's like, your heart's going to explode out of your chest, or your heart's going to explode and your soul's going to leave your body. That's exactly what she said. And I was like, God damn it. Like, I can't die. We all know that I can't die. Like, that's the one thing that I feel me and God, we have an understanding. I'm like, I'm not going to die. I have kids here. I'm going to stay here. And I feel like he's like, yes, I'm on the same page. You have kids. You have a job here. You're not going to die. But so I was like, I can't. I just like told God, I'm like, I can't stop taking these. I just can't. And so what he did is for like 3 days, as I was still taking them, I was withdrawing from them. The effect of them had no effect, which is the craziest thing to say ever because I was still taking what was left in my house, you know, and every time I took it, it had no effect. I was going through withdrawal physically. So by the third day of me, I not only ran out, but I was fully withdrawn from this medication, and that was God. And I didn't pick it back up, you know. And it was the same with tobacco. I smoked cigarettes too. He told me I was going to get lung cancer, and so I gave that up too. Every one of these things was very hard to stop. Like it wasn't easy. It was extremely difficult.
I still smoke cigarettes. I have I have nicotine gum
Yeah.
that I use while I work because I work from home and I chew nicotine gum all day long. This way I'm not taking like a bunch. Like I get stressed out working. I work for a hospital system, answering phone calls all day and scheduling people for orthopedics and podiatry. So
Yeah.
I work from 7 to 6:30, and I'm off on Wednesdays and the weekends. And I take probably 100 phone calls a day on average, sometimes more, sometimes a little less. And nobody ever calls their doctor in a good mood, right? You never want to call your doctor. And so I get yelled at a lot. So I get stressed. And so I found myself smoking a lot. Then I realized I could get nicotine gum prescribed to me. My psychiatrist, like,
Wow.
my psychiatrist was like, "Do you want me to prescribe you nicotine gum?" I'm like, "You could prescribe that?" And he was like, "Yeah, you just have to pay a copay." So $43 or $1 copay by having them prescribed.
Wow.
Next step is getting prescribed the patch, which again is $1 copay, and I can get all the patches for a month and be good to go. So I definitely got lucky that he gave me these because I smoked a lot less now. Um,
Yeah.
I just picked up more. The problem was last month they gave me the mint flavored, and I wasn't a menthol smoker. I was a Marlboro 27 smoker. and I hated the way the mint tasted, so I wouldn't chew it, and I would smoke more cigarettes during work. So
Yeah.
today I went to pick up my medicine, and they about to hand me the bag with the nicotine gum. I was like, "Can you open that and make sure it's cinnamon?" And they pulled it out, and it was mint. I was like, "I need you to switch it to cinnamon because I can't chew the mint ones." So I almost got stuck with more mint. I'm glad I told them to look in the bag first. Um, so what do you do for your sobriety today? You know, now that you're coming up on 5 years at the end of the year, what are you doing to
Coming up
stay?
on, is that right? 5 years? I think six. It's 6 years. I'm coming up
Oh,
on
I thought you
6 years.
said 2019.
One, two, three, four, five. Man, now I don't know. When was Adeline born? Yeah, I guess you're right. 5 years. Okay, 5 years. Um, I stick close to AA. That's what I do. I definitely put it first before foremost, and I work a program. It does feel like I'm doing a lot of other things because I'm trying to stay food abstinent too. So, but I stick close to AA. That's my best thing. I have a
Yeah.
sponsor. I work the steps. I'm going to be looking for sponsees. There's like a sponsee sponsor matchup this weekend, so I'm gonna find another girl to like take through the steps. So that's how I stick with it. And obviously, like I don't put myself in situations ever where I might drink. I don't spiritually. I feel spiritually fit. Like I'm not close to a drink like that, but I still take precautions.
Yeah.
Like I just don't go. I don't go places where people are just drinking, and
Yeah.
it's actually yeah,
I feel the same way. I used to do stand-up comedy and I stopped when I got sober 6 years ago. I stopped
yeah,
doing. I have three different sobriety dates that are important to me. I have April 25th, 2018. That's when I found recovery. That's when I learned about AA. That's when I learned about NA. And I haven't done opiates in over 6 years. And then February 29th is when I quit alcohol. And then April 1st is when I quit benzos and weed. July 13th is gambling. So I have a bunch of dates that are important to me in my
yeah.
recovery.
That's
Um,
great.
but I love, AA is cool. I went through the steps in AA and I still ended up drinking. So that's why I figured this time I'm going to go through the steps in NA and try what that's like. And because like there's literally a workbook for NA. Like my sponsors got 30 years. You just celebrated yesterday, 30 years.
From
And
alcohol or everything?
everything. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's an NA group. In our literature, it literally says alcohol is a drug, period.
yeah.
So I feel comfortable talking about drugs and talking about alcohol in that group. That I'm in. It's a group based out of Providence, Rhode Island, and is a really good group of people. It's usually like 20 of us in the meeting, and a noon meeting every day. I work until 6:30 because when I had my relapse earlier this year, I took a month off FMLA and short term disability just to like kind of reset my brain. I did 30 and 30 instead of 90 and 90. I ended up doing 90 and 90, but I wanted to make sure I did 30 and 30 to start off with that month off of work. And when I came back, I said to my manager, like, she's really understanding. Listen, I really need this noon meeting. Can I take an hour and a half long lunch break and then stay an hour late every day? She's like, yeah, that's fine. So I get an hour and a half long lunch break to clock out, go smoke a cigarette, log into my NA meeting, and then get done, smoke a cigarette, and clock back into work. So it gives
That's
me a
great.
chance to like, how when you leave a meeting, you feel like you just reset your day, even if you had a bad day.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like it gives me like medicine. That's what it feels like to me. It's like medicine and just a
Yeah, no,
reminder,
yeah,
like
I
food.
completely agree. Yeah,
Like it's like spiritual food.
yeah, and that's why. And when I was telling you about how my job can be stressful, I could have a really stressful morning and then reset my day in a noon meeting, and then have the last 5 hours not be so bad because I've already. It's like going to the gym for your mind. I feel spiritually fit to finish out my day in the second half of my day. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you use AA because it's such a great tool to have. And
Yeah. NAA. I mean, honestly, any program where you're led to be in some kind of connection with other people in recovery and a spiritual connection to a higher power, I think that is the only way we can do it, because we've already learned that it's not willpower is not the problem. The problem is like our brains and how we are created. Like, obviously, and I just think that we were created like this.
yeah, there's
Like
there that
we
work
were
it.
born with this.
There's people out
You know
there
what I
that
mean?
they're dry drunks. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
never did a meeting, and they feel like they're good and they don't need a meeting. But at the same time, I have to feel like they didn't hit their rock bottom yet,
No,
because
they haven't.
I feel like, and I've said this a lot, our rock bottoms are all the same. It's the day you surrender to a program.
Yeah.
And we have different lows in our addiction, different low points. You're homeless, you get divorced. You know what I mean? You hit different bottoms, but you don't hit rock bottom until you finally hold your hands up like, all right, someone show me how to do this, because I can't do this for myself.
Well, some people's rock bottoms are getting in the car and murdering somebody while they're in a blackout, Like that very well could be mine. I feel like, I got pulled over in a blackout with all three of my kids in the car. All three of my kids. I was actually about to get onto the highway when I got pulled over. I got pulled over on the side road before the exit, and I had a 50-minute drive home with all three of my kids in the car. So I'm sure of it that that would have ended in disaster. So that could have been a lot different. And there's a lot of people who do that. There's a lot of people who kill people on the road because they're drunk. I don't want that bottom. That scares
Yeah.
the shit out of me. And I know that if I picked up today, that's exactly what would happen eventually. Maybe not the first night, but probably within a week, I'll get behind the wheel in a blackout, and
Yep.
then that's scary. So
Yeah. No, I agree
mhm.
completely. I mean, and I had a friend that died on his relapse. On the night he relapsed, he overdosed and died. And he had 6 months. Me and him both got sober at the same time. He was in Florida, I was in California. We talked all the time. And then when we came back to Jersey and Pennsylvania, he was from Jersey. He relapsed 2 weeks later, and he died on his relapse because of fentanyl and doing as much as what he used to do. And today,
That's
today
sad.
as
Yeah.
we record, is National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day. So,
Yeah. That's so
and
sad.
yep, it's it's scary out there now. I'm afraid to relapse. You know what I mean? Like,
I think that that's really a healthy fear, just like you wouldn't go freaking jump in a raging river, and
yeah,
expect to swim across it. You know what I mean? You're not going to walk through a freaking burning building either. I don't
yep,
even know if that's fear, if it's more like just intelligence and like education. So I'll do anything. Like, I'll give up anything to stay sober. I will do anything and give up anything. And I'm thankful that God really does walk beside me in everything that I do. He lives inside me, he walks beside me, and I couldn't do that without that relationship. But it's not just that. Like, I stay connected to people in recovery, and I stay like open and willing, because I never want to go back. Never, ever, ever want to go back to that.
and my relapse with alcohol is the same thing that you always hear. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped talking to my sponsor. I stopped talking to my higher power. You know what I mean? Like, all of the telltale signs of a relapse all happened to me. And then I bought a 6-pack of Twisted Tea. So it's not even like I was cool with my relapse. I bought Twisted Tea. And you know how in AA they say you have to drink every last drop because you just feel like you don't want to waste anything?
Yeah.
I drank 4, and then I poured 2 down the sink to prove that I wasn't an alcoholic. But only an alcoholic would think of some dumb shit like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's
So
true.
it didn't stop me from drinking ever
To
again.
prove.
I drank for 9 months, after that, and it didn't.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
Yeah, and it wasn't. It was a slow progression, right? It was like one day a week,
Yeah.
maybe Friday and a Saturday I would drink, and then during the fall, like, oh, it's a Monday, maybe I'll have a drink. It was a long day, and then by winter I was drinking a bottle of Jack a night.
That's a good reminder, because that's terrifying. Actually,
I
I
woke up.
never want to go back to drinking.
I woke up on Leap Day and February 29th of 2020, and I said to my wife, I either need to have a drink right now or we got to quit. And she was like, well, I'll quit with you, because she's an alcoholic too. And she was like, I'll quit with you. And I was like, okay, because today's a perfect sober date, because we can only celebrate once every 4 years. So we just celebrated last February, the first time we got to celebrate anniversary. Because, like, when do you have an anniversary? The 28th or the 1st? You know what I mean? On the other years.
That's really cool.
So
That's pretty cool.
I'll never want to drink again because of having my sober date be Leap Day.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't need to start I actually am convinced I don't have another one in me, because I did get sober once for a couple years, and then I actually picked up weed. I started smoking weed, and the weed led me to a drink. So I had forgotten about that, but God was right. He told me it would lead to a drink. He was right. It did, like many years back. So I'm better off without it. I still have problems just like everybody else, but
yeah,
I don't have that problem.
yeah. But look at us now.
Exactly. And it is, I am coming up on 6 years, because my daughter was born February 2018, and she was a baby when I got sober, and it was December 28, 2019. Did I say 15? I'm sorry. She was born February 2018, and I got sober that December. So I am coming up on 6 years.
Okay.
This December. Yeah. I was like, wait, I know I celebrated 5 years. I don't think too much about the time, because it is kind of exciting, but it's also like a gift. So it's not like, yay, like I'm not like freaking out. I do want to have good quality of recovery. That's important to me. Like, just being able to enjoy my life and be happy is really important to me.
And you know what they say, the cliches we all have today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter how much time we have, as long as we have today.
Yeah.
Thanks again for sitting down and chatting, talking about your story. I know it's never easy to go through some of that stuff and talk about again, but you're an AA person, so you're used to telling those stories.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind. If between the two of us, we can have like 7 sober dates, 8 sober dates from different like things.
Different substances.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's a lot of solutions to a lot of problems.
It sure is. And I'm happy that I am off of. I started smoking weed when I was 13, and I'm 38. So you're talking 25 years. This is the longest.
Yeah.
This is the longest I've gone without smoking in 25 years. And
to me, it provided the least amount of like high, like of all the things out there. It, like, I thought weed was annoying because you could only get so high, but you could smoke all day long. That's why it wasn't that great.
Yeah, no, it was hard for me to quit. It was definitely harder for me to quit. I was so attached to it for so long. I had only ever quit. I quit for 3 months when I was on probation, like in 2013, and I had to pass drug tests, so I stopped smoking weed. But besides that, I've never taken a break from smoking. Smoking is the innocent bystander. It always happens to just be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
The innocent bystander.
Well, I think of it. Do you ever watch Cops?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the cops would show up to a domestic disturbance, and she was always like, "Oh yeah, he just did a lot of coke and he started hitting me. He's been drinking all day and he started hitting me." Nobody ever says, "Oh, they just smoked a blunt and he started hitting me." No, but there always happens to be weed in there.
Yeah. Interesting. You're right. Like, it is like kind of a subtle foe, because as much as you don't get like. I'm saying, like, the way it makes people is just like kind of dull, but but it's just enough to like take you out to other horrible drugs. It's exactly what you need.
Yep, you're right, and that's why I had to cut out the benzos too. You know, as
Yes.
much as they were helping me, I was overprescribing, and I shouldn't be trusted with them.
I would
And
not be able to take those either. I know what they are. I remember taking them once. I would not be able to take them ever. Not
yeah,
those, not painkillers, nothing. Not even sleep aids.
yeah,
Those are nothing.
painkillers was me 21 to 31. So
Yeah, I can't do that. Whatever's there's so much shit out there that I just can't take.
nope, I
And
couldn't
it's
agree
okay.
more. But all right, well, I appreciate you talking today.
Yeah, thank you for letting me just share my experience, strength and hope.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Have a great day.
It was nice to meet you. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.